Agriculture is probably the first thing that people think about when we say hog damage because it is such a high-profile thing and it's very easy to attach a monetary value to damage. We don't have a formal estimation of population. We do have an estimated harvest from a survey that goes out every year called Responsive Management, and we do know that hogs occur in all 82 counties in Mississippi.
In some areas like the South Delta and even the North Delta, the hog population appears to be pretty high and the damage is pretty substantial. A lot of it's from a disease perspective, so a lot of diseases that feral swine carry, people can get and or livestock can get. And so that's part of it. And the other part is the amount of damage done to agricultural producers. It's pretty substantial. I don't know that there's very many crops produced in this state that don't get damaged. They're pretty non-discriminate when it comes to the crop damage.
Wild hogs impact a lot of other things besides just crops, and again, that's only part of the year. And so the things it's a lot tougher to assign monetary value, like habitat degradation, erosion cost, that type thing that people don't necessarily think of. So the USDA Wildlife Services in Mississippi and the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries and Parks have a very good working relationship. They do some things that is not necessarily in our ballpark, like the aerial gunning, and then we do some things, particularly on our WMAs and some private lands assistance and technical guidance that they don't do quite as much of. And so together we can fill gaps in the management needs and still have a good working relationship and help each other out in the process.
We do a couple different things. We do a lot of trapping, and that goes on year-round. We also conduct night shoots. Still a lot of work going on with toxicants, and so we don't know exactly where that's going to be. You know, a lot of the things that still have to be thought out is the delivery system, where you deliver a toxicant just specifically to a pig. And then we have our aerial operations, which is using the helicopter with one of our certified aerial gunners. Today we're flying and we're hunting for pigs to try and protect a lot of the farmers here in the South Delta, as well as trying to protect some of the infrastructure, particularly the levee with the amount of water coming in. We can get a lot of numbers real quick this way, and especially we're right before planting season right now, so if we can get those animals from doing the damage to the fields as the farmers are getting their crops in, it saves them a tremendous amount of money and time and effort to do replanting. It's been pretty good. You know, it's hard to measure not knowing how many animals are actually on the landscape, but you know, working with the farmers and working with the refuge system and a lot of our other cooperators, they're seeing reduced damage. So that tells us that our success rate, you know, is climbing. And then the number of animals that we're seeing this year, particularly in the South Delta, appears to be down a little bit from what we've seen the last 3 years of doing this work.
So the best management tool that we have right now to control wild hogs is trapping. The reason for that is because you can catch the entire sounder in a trap, and a sounder is no more than a social unit of hogs, much like a herd or a pack or something like that. And so what we do by removing that entire sounder is you keep from educating hogs to understanding what a trap is and to learn to avoid them, so you can avoid that situation. And you can be the most efficient you can be possibly removing hogs off the landscape if you get that entire sounder off at one time. You can operate them from a smart device on your phone or tablet or computer. And what they do is they allow you to get another step in the control that you have over that trapping situation. And so with traditional traps, there's a lot of time and effort to go out to the trap, to visit it. State law requires that you visit the trap at least every 36 hours to check it. So if you can do that remotely, then that negates that much time and effort that you have to spend traveling to the trap. It also allows you to schedule your trapping events around basically when you can go out there to deal with those hogs. It also allows you to be confident in the hogs that you're trapping, to know that you've got that entire sounder in because you can actually view them. You've got a wide enough view that you can see the entire trap and some around the outside to know that you've got all that entire sounder coming in before you drop those gates. The reason we do those nighttime operations is we have a partnership with USDA that we collect samples on our wildlife management areas, we send them off to them, and then they go to labs, and then they share the results with us. So we can get a better idea of the DNA makeup of the pigs that are on our WMAs, and we also get a better idea of the disease prevalence that are on some of these WMAs as we get more and more data on those particular areas. And so what these nighttime operations allow us to do is to go out on these WMAs selectively, take adults and then sample those adults and be able to get that much more data from that WMA that we wouldn't have had otherwise. So we use a number of different sensors. We use both night vision and thermal depending on the application, what we're trying to do. Typically we use thermal equipment. We use one unit to actually scan the landscape and look for heat signatures, and then usually we use an AR or some type of weapons mounted system to actually look a little bit closer at that animal to differentiate deer from hogs, for example, to make sure that we've got the right target. And then once we do verify that that is a group of hogs, then we'll move in and get as close as we can before we start taking shots. It's much easier to sneak up on them in the nighttime than it is in the daytime, but you have to make sure that you have your wind right. Wind is everything when you're trying to get up close at nighttime. Generally you can get really close. You can get a lot closer than people think you can. Generally we try to get inside of 50 yards before we start taking shots, and a lot of times they don't know which way to go because they don't know where the sound is coming from, and so you may have them run directly away from them or you may have them run directly toward you, and so it makes for an exciting few moments there while you're taking shots. To put it briefly, we came up on a very large sounder of pigs, and as we usually try to do in the moment, we try to select out the larger, preferably the sows, because those are the ones that contribute most of the population, so we try to take those out first. Those are always also the ones that make the entire sounder harder to trap. And so what we try to do on all of our management areas for that matter, and what I recommend to our private landowners, is try to use shooting to help your trapping and not to hurt it. Use it as a supplement. We try to use surgical shots and to take out select individuals if we can, and that way it makes the sounder as a whole easier to trap.
We've done very well, and we've been doing this now for about 5 years. And so I think most of the farmers that we've worked with have seen a substantial reduction in the damage, especially before planting season. I think the state management areas, National Wildlife Refuge System lands, and the levee board that we've been all working with as well are all seeing reduced damage. And that's what it's about. It's about trying to reduce the damage.
Hey, that's all the time we have for this week. Hope you enjoyed the show.
Join us again next time for more exciting adventures. Until then, I'm Pamela Weaver.
And I'm Kevin Meacham.
See you outdoors.
outdoors.